Hey everyone, Steve with Taylor's Boats today. We're super excited to have the Godfrey clan with us today. We've got Greg Godfrey, the founder of Nitro Circus, Hunter Hansen, and Chandler Godfrey, the co-founders of Godfrey Proof, and we're just super excited to have them here today to learn about their experience with Taylor's Boats and Malibu Boats. We all know the Godfrey family is like the family of outdoor recreation in Utah, and their experience with motorcycles, side-by-sides, and even boats is quite incredible. You know, you guys have had a lot of different brands. You've boated for a long time. You have a lot of experience. Why did you guys choose Malibu?
Because of you guys. It's because, and I'm not saying that to suck up, that's the truth, because Taylor's has such a great reputation and they do all these, take care of it. It's for us, we're not, Chandler's a little more mechanical than me, but I'm not. So I don't want to really, I'd have to try and figure everything out if something happens. And we had the ability with you guys to bring the boat in, and it just worked great. And plus you were able to tie into Malibu. So for us, it was a perfect fit.
Awesome.
To me, like every boat, like everyone says, oh, this boat's got this boat's got that, whatever. It came down to the service. Like we've done a lot of things with power sports, motorcycles, boats. It never gets serviced on time. And with Taylor's, it was always on time, it was always ready to go, and you guys took care of us. And honestly, that's your reputation with anybody.
Yeah, you went out of your way, so that was fantastic.
That's definitely something I would say at Taylor's Boats. We're striving for customer excellence and customer service and the whole customer experience from the boat buying process all the way to the end. And so
We even offered to drive down to Powell to fix the boat at one
Good.
point. I was like, nobody should do that. Like, that doesn't make sense to me, but we're grateful for it.
Well, I think that's important to note. Like, yeah, occasionally a boat will have a problem, but one thing that Taylor and the team and the service team is they do want to stand by the product and do whatever they can to make sure you're on the water as quick as possible. And so I'm glad to hear that we did that.
Okay, so we hear that, but it actually happened, and that's the cool part, because everyone can say that, but we actually were like the what's the word? Just screwed that up. Recipient of that.
Yeah.
You know the other thing too is like Hunter is super anal about the machine and what it does and doesn't do. So, what was your take on the machine?
Well, we were definitely
the boat.
We were definitely interested with the idea that it was Malibu. None of us had ever been or owned Malibu in that sense. And like you were saying, we've had tons of other experience in different boats, and so we're all super curious how the Malibu would perform. And bringing that in with meeting you guys here at Taylor's, we were really excited about the collaboration. But then once we actually got the boat and got it on the water, it was a game changer as far as how easy it was to run the boat, and just how clean the wave for surfing was, and then the wake for wakeboarding was just massive. So all around, the shape of the wave was, I'd say it's the best that I've ridden behind, for sure.
You guys had a 2020 Malibu 25 LSV. What were some of your favorite features on that boat?
Well, I think something that Chandler and I were just talking about before this was we ended up getting one of those hyperlight boards that have the straps that you can put your feet in. Something that became really fun was surfing with the rope, cutting out as far as you could, and then cutting really hard and trying to jump to the other side. And then we would, in the air, whoever was driving would switch the wave. Okay. So you would try to jump goofy or regular and then land on the other side while using the wave gate to swap the wave to the other side. And that was something that was super fun.
I couldn't believe how quick it shifted, honestly, because like before, usually it's, we gotta switch all the ballast and it takes like 20 minutes, and like the instant switch, and usually though you can switch, but the other side's not as good until you fill the ballast, and it was just instant. Both sides were perfect. And then
that wedge though, I think that's, for me, just that thing sucks the boat down and creates this crazy wedge where it's so frustrating when you don't have that, right? You're trying to throw everything.
It's so perfect on both sides was that wedge, just like evening it all out.
Trying to compensate with a boat that doesn't have that, it's impossible. So that thing hitting and pulling it down.
Pulling the hull down in the water and then displacing water.
Yeah. I was a big fan too of the dashboard too. Like, it's actually simple. A lot of boats, for some reason, they're complicated and they always have problems. And it's actually very simple, very easy to use. That when I wanted to go surf and teach somebody else how to drive, it wasn't this whole 5-hour course of how to use the dashboard. It was just
surf left, surf right.
Exactly. It's very user-friendly.
And I have to say, I ride Goofy, and
It's true with this boat.
I ride Goofy, and
Yeah.
this is the first boat I have been on where the Goofy side was just as good or even better
Sure.
than the regular side. And I think it's because of the way the prop spins.
Yeah.
But on all the other boats that I've ever been on, the right side, the Goofy side, is always crashing and it's always
Washed
whitewater,
out.
washed out.
Yeah.
And on this Malibu, it's not. And
No,
so
that's awesome.
boats are boats. They're all great. But
Sure.
what you're ultimately looking for in a boat, from my perspective, is comfort inside of the boat, space, ease of use, and then especially for people like us, shape of the wave.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. Is you want to feel confident when you're surfing. You want to feel like you don't have to constantly be pumping as hard as you can to stay in the sweet spot. And that was something with this boat that you get on the wave and you're in the sweet spot, and it pushes you to stay in the sweet spot. So.
Yeah, one thing that we love about Malibu is the DNA of Malibu has always been versatility and performance, and making sure that the customer has the flexibility to make a big wake, a shorter wake, a longer wake for all different skill sets. And that doesn't say that this boat can't be like the best in terms of a pro level wake. It can do that, but not everybody needs that all the time. And so one thing that we love is the versatility. So it's good to hear that you guys are using, all of those functions of the boat. So.
Well, coming from like a mechanical perspective, like I love testing product and seeing the way engineers thought through every step of the process, even down to how easy is it to get to the motor to fix it. And that's one thing I really found interesting about Malibu. And it's kind of similar to like KTM motorcycles. Like they just think through every process possible.
Yeah.
So that way the customer has the easiest experience and best experience.
I think what this is a good segue. Going back in the history of the Godfrey family, it'd be cool to understand, because you guys have a ton of experience with razors. You have a ton of experience with motorcycles, four-wheelers, sandrails, side-by-sides, whatever it is. The Godfrey family, especially in Utah, you guys have done so much for the outdoor community and outdoor recreation. Like, you really understand the engineering process and everything that the manufacturer is trying to provide. So, being said all that, I think it would be fun to hear a little bit of your background. Why outdoor recreation? Why boating?
I think for me, it all started with my dad. I mean, every weekend he would pull us out at whatever we were doing. We were on a motorcycle in the spring and the fall, and we were on a boat all summer. So his love of boating definitely transferred to me, and so we've been able to continually stay in that forever. And a love of Lake Powell and a love of all the lakes around here and just all the recreation. But
Don't let him fool you though. He's missing a key part of his boating history, is that he sunk one of his dad's boats back in the day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, fully underwater. And so he's
Don't tell
really
them
experienced.
that.
see, my son has to bring that up, because if it ever happens, then he can
Sure.
just tell me that I did it.
Yeah.
That's how that works.
Got that rain check,
So,
He does that all the time. He brings it up.
You guys, obviously you spend a lot of time on snowmobiles, timber sleds, side-by-sides, dirt bikes. What, in your opinion, what is unique about boating, and what is unique for the family experience on a boat compared to maybe those other disciplines?
If I may, honestly, in the last 10 years, we've used the boat as a prop to do the stupidest and craziest things you could possibly think of. And it wasn't so much to do it, make it dangerous, but just everything off the back of the boat. We were doing nitro circus. It was like we were pulling blobs. We were doing anything we could put off the back. We're hooking people off tubes over, jumps.
I tried to parachute off the back of the boat.
Yeah, well, that didn't work. That was minimal. And then, so we've just had all these different experiences, but as it's kind of calmed down a little bit, well, sort of, we've been able to dive into the performance, and that's where Hunter's really good, is understanding what works. And what I love about that boat is we were able to go out, I'm able to take my family, everybody's comfortable. You could adjust the wave to what any person wants, because some people might be intimidated, which I know hardly anybody understands that, but
Sure.
at the height, everybody wants a bigger wave, but some people want a smaller wave. It's just easy to adjust it. The boat's fantastic.
My parents moved to Highland and Alpine around 25 years ago. And back then it was like fields and hills, and there was not a lot of houses. And Utah is now becoming it's really going through this urbanization process where there's big buildings everywhere. Back in the day where you could just pull out of your driveway and ride a dirt bike or a go-kart in the field, those days are sort of going down. And what I'm noticing is families are left with a choice now. They can have the choice of kind of just being an urban family and staying home and playing Nintendo and really not getting out of the house. And it's like you walk around these days and kids are on their phone. And one thing that we're passionate about is trying to get people to go and do adventures and get outside, take advantage of the beautiful lakes we have. And so I'd be curious to know, like, what do you guys see with that right now? And what do you, the whole thing with Godfrey Proof is you guys have this mission statement of discover courage. Talk a little bit about that and why Godfrey Proof and why discover courage.
If I may say something quick to that point,
Yeah.
though. Typically, everywhere you go in that boat, too,
Sure.
there's no cell service. So that works great, too.
Yeah.
Talk about everybody kind of focusing and being together. So
That's a great point.
Well, for now, Powell's kind of getting a little bit of service.
Yeah.
Sure.
But you know, I'm glad you brought up Discover Courage, and I'm glad you brought up that point about getting out and exploring, because literally that's what Godfrey Proof is all about. You know, we have Greg Godfrey, who created Nitro Circus, and it inspired people to overcome their fears. And so me and Hunter kind of coming in the back door and saying, all right, let's create a brand that's more inclusive. It can push people and motivate them to get out, to take on their next adventure and discover courage in whatever it is, a boat, a motorcycle, or a razor, even rock climbing or hiking. Sure. We just want people to understand the possibilities of this world, and that it is scary. I mean, believe it or not, we have a lot of fears, but it's just that simple step of just going for it. And yeah, a boat provides that opportunity, a razor provides that opportunity, and so that's what we're all about for sure.
And we've seen that a lot, like with Utah becoming more and more urban and growing. We didn't, when we were kids, we didn't stay inside and play video games. You know, we didn't hang out in online forums. We just didn't do those things, right? We were out, whether it was riding motorcycles or mountain bikes or
Hunter
skiing.
comes from a big skiing background. He was always in the mountain. And come winter, I'm surprised he even got him here today.
Yeah.
He's usually skiing.
Well, it's just, we grew up differently. He grew up in power sports. I grew up in gravity sports. Chandler did a lot of gravity sports too. But the concept is the same. We weren't sitting on our butts watching TV or playing video games. And if people want to do that, that's fine, but we want to be able to encourage people to get outside.
Yeah.
Right? To have childhoods like we had, where it was running around the mountains with your friends, whether you're on a bike or just running around or
Sure.
shooting each other with airsoft guns or
Yeah,
paintball guns.
sure.
You know, we just want to encourage people to go out and actually enjoy the world that we live in.
one of the things, too, about the boat that I love
Yeah.
is it's not so violent. And what I mean by that is it's like, it's hard to hurt yourself.
Sure.
And like everything else is just, as you get to be my age, you get tired of, I mean,
Going
to
over
some
the
degree,
bars
yeah.
on a dirt bike.
Yeah,
or
you
whatever.
break your wrist or you get a concussion or something happens. It's so low impact. And I really do, you know, instead of like worrying if I'm going to get mangled, it's more about just really relaxing and having fun.
Yeah,
So,
with the family all
yeah.
together. That's awesome.
Well, that's your whole thing, right? Bringing friends and family together. That's what Taylor's is
Yeah,
all about. And the boat in Malibu and what you guys are all about is 100% that. And so we're grateful that you guys live by that, because that's what we want to live by.
Yeah, it really is our mission statement. We're passionate about, like you were saying, get families out of the house and go see this beautiful world. I know you guys put around 150 hours on your boat this year. Tell us maybe some of the trips you went on and what some of the adventures you experienced.
every trip I did with the boat is fairly mellow, but we had a day, it was just Hunter, Kinley, and I and their son, and we were up in Palisades, and it was
Oh, up
just...
in Wyoming.
Yeah, it was paradise, because it was just perfect, no wind, nobody on the water. So I was just, you know, those are days that keep you coming back.
Well, it was glass for as far as you could see, and we had no idea how big that lake was.
Yeah.
So we're literally just cruising down the, were we going, what, east? I don't know. Where,
matter.
we were just cruising for hours.
Wow.
And it was amazing because there's only 3 of us. And we hadn't spent a whole lot of time, just us 3. It was my wife, who is Greg's daughter, and Greg, and then our son. And after we cruised for a long time, we just surfed all the way back. And we just took turns, just back and forth surfing. And pine trees in the mountains, blue water, Tetons in the background.
Incredible.
It was a memory that won't disappear
Right.
anytime soon,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
You can't experience that at like Disneyland.
No, it's completely different, right? It's
Yeah.
completely different. It's one of those moments where it's like, this is something I'll always remember, and just being in the boat together, it forces you to have time together. So.
I love that. One thing I love from my childhood, especially, you talk about learning such life lessons from these adventures. I remember going to Powell, and it's like you're so excited. You drive up to a beach, and it's like going boating and going to Lake Powell is a little bit of work, right? It's not like you're going to the Montage.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. And like you're digging anchors and you're prepping like camp, and like it really is like this perfect harmony of work and fun. And I love why boating and other outdoor recreation does for a family and teach them such good life lessons. Like a storm may come up, and it might be a wild experience.
Not
but
may, it's going
to
come up.
Yeah, so anyways, I love that you said that, because there is such good life learning lessons from getting outside, going boating, going on an adventure, and camping. So I love that you said that.
You know, and to that point, we were talking, you know, like 10 minutes ago about going down to Baja, and what an adventure that would be to be on the Sea of Cortez and start at San Felipe and just surf and ride and go down into these coves and go fishing. And I mean, like, there's just very few things in this world that come close to that, as how cool that is, and what all the things that happen. So,
what other trips did you guys go on with the boat this year? I know you went to Lake Powell, the
Well,
Colorado
he really wanted
River.
to try the Colorado River. Apparently, that's something that a wakeboard boat doesn't go on.
well, I don't know. Have you ever done that?
I haven't, and I don't know a lot of people that have actually taken a wakeboard boat in the Colorado River.
So it's pretty amazing, because you get down there and it's like fairly shallow, but you can see all the way to the bottom. The water's super clear, but it's cold. It's like 50 degrees or something, and you got to be careful. You know, because I've heard people snagging going up through there, and there's reefs and different things. But
Well, what's trippy about it is when you stop, like you're going forward and then you stop and then you start going backwards,
With
and
the
you're going
current.
forward
Yeah.
and backwards, and it's like you can't.
Yeah.
It's really difficult.
it's a special place. If you haven't been down there, and we didn't surf or anything on it, but just taking the boat down there.
Just for a cruise.
In fact, I think Malibu posted one of the photos.
They did, yeah. That was
from
awesome.
That time.
Yeah. And I know you guys did some trips at Lake Powell this year. Tell us about that.
Well, we had a cool opportunity to go down with Red Bull skateboarder Letitia Buffoni. And she's gotten really into wake surfing. She actually says it's her favorite thing to do besides skateboarding,
She's
which
really
is cool.
like the #1 woman skateboarder in the world, right?
I think she's the biggest female skateboarder of all time.
Yeah.
As far as reach goes and her success in the sport, and she was awesome, and she couldn't say enough about the boat. She just wanted to ride behind the boat.
Yeah, she
the whole
actually
time.
she owns her own boat. We're not gonna say the name, but she owns her own boat, and she kept wanting to ride behind our boat because she's just done with her boat.
I love it.
And the thing is what was interesting about that trip was a bunch of people from Brazil. We had no idea who they were, never met.
We
and
couldn't even communicate with half
yeah,
of
we
them.
couldn't even talk to them.
Yeah.
But there's something about being in Powell on a boat together, and by the end of the trip, we were best friends.
Awesome.
You know, it was totally a good time.
Funny story about that is my other nephew Tyler was down there with him, and Tyler, because they couldn't communicate to all the group, he's trying to hit on her. You know, that's going to be his girlfriend for the weekend. But then they realized quickly that she had a boyfriend there.
But he didn't
They
speak
couldn't
English, so we
communicate.
didn't know that.
Yeah, Fala Portuguese.
Well, and another funny side note to that trip is one of her friends who was there. He literally looked, I'm not kidding you, exactly like Kelly Slater.
Wow.
Like, people thought Kelly Slater was riding behind our boat. We kept getting messages like, is that Kelly Slater? And it wasn't.
Sure.
But it was funny, just like that whole combination. It was so random. We're down in Powell with a bunch of Brazilians. Half of them don't speak any English. Come to find out, one of them builds drift cars. Like, he's super into motorsports. One of them,
cars, like Lamborghinis in that.
yeah.
Okay.
The one who looked like Kelly Slater, he's a 3-time world champion jiu-jitsu wrestler.
Jeez.
Just like, these people were amazing, and the boat
But
really
I
brought
can't
us
think
together.
I can't think of any other activity though that could have brought that crowd together like that.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen in motorsports or like motocross and that.
Sure.
It's only like in Powell.
You're in a 25 LSV, you
Yeah.
got 17 or
Yeah,
18
you're
people,
forced to
you're
talk
forced to be with
or
them.
figure it out.
And one thing that we've talked about is this next summer, we've actually already talked to the same group about it, because our trip was a couple weeks after like the Powellpalooza that Mastercraft does, right?
Okay.
And we're sitting there thinking, like, we could do this way better. Like, it looked like a super fun trip, but we could do this way better. And what we're thinking we want to do is bring it down a bunch of RVs onto Lone Rock down there at Powell, bring out a bunch of razors, motorcycles, and then invite a ton of people.
Sounds like
to
a
come.
party.
Yeah.
Just like a massive week-long party that we bring out the Malibu, Malibus,
Yeah,
the
sure,
Axuses,
sure.
whatever we want, and we just host this big event, kind of our own version of Powellpalooza, with athletes, influencers, families,
Yeah.
and just have like a really fun time. And that's something that is in the talks, and hopefully
Love
we're
it.
going to make happen.
That sounds great.
I think we should tell the story about just happening upon that rope swing.
So you're speaking of these adventures and family and friends and all that. You know, we're cruising Powell, and you know your favorite thing is to go cruise these canyons. And sure enough, we come up on this rope swing. And it's not just a typical rope swing. It's not just like, oh yeah, it's like strapped to this cable that has a bungee aspect to it. And so
Crazy.
one thing that was pretty cool though is like we were able to, with the 25, what did we have, like 17 some people with us? And everybody got to go and try this rope swing. And to this day, we still get DMs of where it's at and how to
awesome.
find it. And everybody
So
got to.
where is it?
Who knows? I think it got torn down actually.
Yeah.
But it was a pretty rad experience.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah. This has
Thank
been
you
fun.
guys.
We love working with you and love seeing the Godfrey family in Malibu.
Right on.
Well, let's make
we like being
2021 a
here.
great adventure.
I think we need to plan that trip down the coast of Baja. And I'm going to say it on camera so that we get
See what
pinned
we
down
can
on
do.
this, and,
Yeah.
and then do the one in Powell.
Yeah, Baja on a Cobalt or Malibu would be pretty
I
awesome.
think it'd be amazing.
Well, thank you. This has been super fun.
Thanks, you guys.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you.
you.